Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhanatu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Samasta Janakalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. This text, Drig-Drishya Viveka, it's a very famous text amongst, and popular text amongst Vedantic students. It is said that this text is authored by Sri Adi Shankaracharya. However, there is some controversy over who actually has written it, and therefore some people believe that one, it could be Sri Adi Shankaracharya. Two, it could be a famous Swami called Swami Vidyaranya. And then some believe it is written by Swami Vidyaranya's guru, Swami Bharat Tirtha. So there's a little bit of, it's a bit unclear as to who the actual author is. However, in our tradition, in Guruji's textbook, Guruji has taken it as Sri Adi Shankaracharya. He said he is the author. The text is also called Vakya Sudha. So it has another name, Vakya Sudha. Vakya means sentence, Vakya means statement, Vakya means also Vedas, and Sudha means nectar. So the very nectar of the Vedas, Vakya Sudha, but it's more popularly known as Drig-Drishya Viveka. Now, one interesting thing to note about this Drig-Drishya Viveka, this version that we are studying has 31 verses. Some other versions have got some extra verses in there, but those verses don't make it any more complete. The actual 31 verses that are in front of us, they have the complete jnanam, Atma Jnanam is given. And what's interesting is that many of these verses, even of this 31, many of these verses you will find in a minor Upanishad. And that Upanishad is called Saraswati Rahasya Upanishad. So this is not an Upanishad we study, and very few people do study. It's quite a rare Upanishad. And minor Upanishad means that Sri Adi Shankaracharya has not written a commentary on it. So on this Upanishad, Saraswati Rahasya Upanishad, or from this Upanishad, many of the verses have been taken directly. I think last time I counted, I'll have to look at it again, I think 16 of these 31 verses I had found in this Saraswati Rahasya Upanishad. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is, one, it'll help you understand what the theme of this Drig-Drishya Viveka is, because so many of the mantras are taken from the Upanishad that we understand that this is a pure Upanishad type of text. It is dealing with the highest type of knowledge, which is Jiva Brahma Aikyam, oneness of the individual and the Supreme. So we are not going to find too much discussion on the preparation for Brahmajnana. The preparation for Brahmajnanam is called Karma Yoga, otherwise Bhakti Yoga / Upasana. We are not going to find too much of that here. In fact, in this text, what's very beautiful is that it is given, steps for meditation are given towards the end. So how to do Nididhyasana. In the Jnana Marga, there are 3 steps. Shravana, listening, Manana, reflecting, and then Nididhyasana, meditating. Yeah. In Shravana, we are just first hearing the concepts. We are hearing the concepts. It's like having a cup of tea. When you have a cup of tea, but you want to add sugar to it. Shravana is just adding the sugar to the tea. Manana now means you have to reflect upon those concepts, which means stir the tea. You're stirring the tea so the sugar doesn't remain just at the bottom. The sugar starts pervading all aspects of the tea. That's called mananam. Mananam, second aspect of knowledge. And the third aspect is called nididhyasana, meditation. That's when you actually drink the tea. You make the tea one with yourself. You make the tea one with yourself. Yeah. In the same way, this text gives beautiful points on nididhyasanam. How to make knowledge of the self one with myself. So it's not just theoretical knowledge, but it actually becomes my experience, anubhuti, my experience. So this text has got a little bit more advanced topic to it. Another reason why I mentioned it's from Saraswati Rahasya Upanishad is because when we read minor Upanishads, you will come to see that many times Shankaracharyaji's works, especially Viveka Chudamani, there are portions of his own composition which are completely taken from these minor Upanishads. Whole sections, sometimes 10 mantras, 20 mantras at a time. He has just taken from a minor Upanishad, he has seen the beauty in that, and he has put it into that Vivek Chudamani. And in many of his granthas, we will see that Shankaracharya doesn't really have his own language. His language actually becomes the language of the Upanishad actually. That's the beauty of Shankaracharya. That he is not trying to create something himself. He is not trying to put his own name or brand upon these texts, this knowledge. No, actually, he wants to be effaced from the entire process. What he is doing is trying to bring out the glory of the Upanishad. Therefore, in his compositions, some portions he has to write to make it easier. So there's an introduction, there's a Shishya Lakshana, Guru Lakshana. And then when it comes to the knowledge, at that time, he just takes straight from the Upanishad and says, you know what? Why should I try to compose something when the Upanishad has already done such a fantastic job? Yeah. So it is with this authenticity that Shankaracharya composes. And that's why, although I'm not a scholar in any means, but I feel that it's nice to accept Sri Adi Shankaracharya as the author here, because so much of this Drig-Drishya Vivek is taken directly from that Saraswati Rahasya Upanishad. It is staying pure and authentic to our Vedas. Yeah. Okay, so that's a little bit about the author. We will take it as Sri Adi Shankaracharya. We will take this version, which has got 31 verses. Now, I'm obviously taking it from the book, which has Guruji's commentary, Swami Tejamayananda, but I have not been able to get that for you on PDF. So the version you have is from the Ramakrishna Mission. I didn't check how many verses are in there, but I'll have a look next time. But of course, the Ramakrishna Mission and their texts are very authentic and very well translated. They've maintained the exact correct bhava and accuracy of knowledge. So that's the version in the PDF that you will have. Okay, now getting into the actual text itself. Drig-Drishya Viveka. Drig-Drishya Viveka is the name of the text. Drig actually means drik, k, with a k at the end. Drik. Drik means one who sees, the seer. The seer. In English, we don't really have a word called the seer. Yeah, Drik. So it's given in English S-E-E-R, but that's not really a word in English. Yeah, but it means one who sees, the one who experiences is called Drik, the seer. Drishya. Drishya means the thing which is seen, experienced. That which is seen, that which is experienced, that is called Drishya. Drishya. So we have Drik and we have Drishya. Seer, seen, otherwise experiencer, experienced. We have these two. Then we have another word called Viveka. Viveka. And Viveka, I had also recently taken this in the Viveka Chudamani class, that the word Viveka is often translated in English as the discrimination. And although the accuracy, the meaning of that word is most relevant here, discrimination, unfortunately, in our common language, the term discrimination has got a very negative connotation. Generally, we now understand discrimination as a form of exclusion, oppression, injustice, racial discrimination, gender discrimination, so that we have anti-discrimination. Although the meaning is also taken, the meaning is correct, and it is taken here in this context, but it's got a very different connotation. Yeah. So the word Viveka, it comes from the Sanskrit dhatu vich, V-I-C-H, vich. And vich means to separate. It means to separate. It means to distinguish. To be able to see the difference between two or more things. To see the difference between two or more things. So the ability to distinguish, the ability to see the difference between two or more things is called Viveka. Viveka. And in our spiritual field, this is an extremely important quality to develop. In fact, when we look at the qualifications of the Vedantic student, we see the first qualification is actually Viveka. We say Viveka, we say Vairagya, we say Shamadhishatka Sampatti, and we say Mumukshutvam. These are the four qualities that a seeker of the truth is supposed to develop and enhance. The first one is Viveka. So although in English you'll see translations everywhere, as discrimination, the discrimination between the seer and the seen. But I like to use the word now clarity. I prefer using the word clarity between seer and seen rather than the word discrimination, because I think the word discrimination, again, like I said, has got too many negative connotations and we don't understand it properly. So the word clarity is a better word. So really we can translate this as the clarity between the seer and the seen. Clarity between seer and seen. Now, if we understand the word clarity, yeah, clarity, if you understand, that is extremely important and beneficial. That many people are seeking clarity. Everyone is seeking clarity, and we are asking everyone else to also have clarity. Yeah. As parents, we look at our children, and as they get towards their year 11 and 12, then we ask them, are you clear on what you want to do? Are you clear about what subjects you want to do, what career you want to take, what course you want to get entry into? We want people to have clarity. If I'm a boss, I want my subordinates or employees to clearly understand my instruction and clearly communicate. Don't send a general message. In your messages, make them very clear. Make them very clear. So, we seek clarity, we respect clarity, and there is tremendous benefit to having clarity. That only when we have clarity can we really have a level of confidence. Clarity breeds confidence. Yeah. When we're very unclear about things, there's a lot of hesitation. Should I or should I not? Is it right or is it wrong? So when I'm not clear about what is right and what is wrong, then all of a sudden there's hesitation to perform action. So even in the field of action, one needs Viveka. Don't think Viveka is only for the field of knowledge. Even in the field of action, you need Viveka. You should know, is this action dharmic or adharmic? Is it righteous or unrighteous? You should also know, is this action or duty my duty or not my duty? That kartavyam, akartavyam. Kartavyam means my duty. Akartavyam, not my duty, someone else's duty. And sometimes when we're doing someone else's duty, we may do it because we are potentially fitter, stronger, more equipped. But when it's not your duty, you will find that you'll be met with a very blunt and terse response. It's a very famous response which people will give you. Mind your own business. Mind your own business. Why? Because this is not your business. Yeah. So I don't know why you are sticking your nose into this. You know why? Because you have gotten involved in something which is not your duty. So that which is akartavyam, not your duty, you stuck your nose in there. You went stuck your nose in there. Therefore people say, stay out. Why don't you butt out? They got nothing to do with you. So even in the field of action, we need Viveka. Dharma, adharma, kartavyam, akartavyam. Then about our life, one of the most important things is, what do you want to achieve? What are your goals in life? So what are your goals in life? We may have many different goals. But what happens is many times we're not convinced that this is my real main ultimate goal. This is the real thing. This is my real purpose that I'm here. I'm not quite convinced. So I have many different goals that I'm trying to achieve, but I never wholeheartedly commit myself to one of them. I keep myself spread amongst many. And when you keep yourself spread amongst many, you can never pour your entire heart into any one of your goals. Therefore, you can never bring that one goal out into its maximum fulfillment or manifestation. It is done half-heartedly because there's always something else that you're thinking about, attending to. So one of the reasons why we find it hard to commit to one goal is because we don't know whether this goal is Shreyas or Preyas. Shreyas means uplifting. Shreyas means noble. Shreyas means that which is going to bring about fulfillment. Versus Preyas, which brings about joy. And Preyas means gratification. So it also brings about joy. It brings about happiness, but it's a different type of happiness. It's a different type of happiness. You know? It's like when we eat. When we eat food, you can eat food which is Preyas, tasty. Swadu, swadu. Tasty food. But it may not be healthy for you. It may not be nourishing for you. It may be actually detrimental to your health. That's what Preyas. Versus food, which is Shreyas. Food which is going to actually help nourish my body, sustain my body, give me energy, make me feel good, give me more vigor and enthusiasm. That's called Shreyas. So we have Preyas and we have Shreyas. And sometimes they're mixed. Because there are some foods which are good for you, but also tasty. And that's not an issue. That's not an issue. But you must be clear, for what reason are you eating? Are you eating because you want to break, you want to rest, you want to just veg out, and therefore you've decided, I'm going to have a binge on something junky, and so therefore you're eating Preyas. You're going for Preyas. Or are you actually looking for something which is going to nourish you? So tomorrow morning, you feel light, you feel energetic, you feel inspired. Yeah? That clarity is what we need to have. We need to be clear that is the goal that I am pursuing, is it Shreyas or Preyas? That's a form of Viveka, Shreyas and Preyas Viveka. Yeah? So you see, even in the field of action, we need clarity. You will find that all successful people, even materially successful people with no spiritual inclination whatsoever, they have Viveka. They know what they want and they know how to get it. They're very clear about what they want. Their goal may not be Shreyas or Preyas, but they know what they want. They know exactly what they want and they apply themselves towards it. That's how you get greatness. So even in the field of action, Viveka is required by the purely materialistic person. Viveka is required for the spiritual person. Now, where does this spiritual person have to now go to a different level of Viveka, different level of clarity? The spiritual person has to go to the level of clarity on what is Atma and what is Anatma, what is self and what is not self. This is what the spiritual seeker now has to start probing into. What is self? That means who am I? And what is not self? What am I not? Yeah. This gets a little bit more confusing because if you look at the other previous forms of Viveka, Dharma, Adharma, Shreyas, Preyas, Kartavya, Akartavya, all of them are extroverted actually. They're all about looking at things outside. You're looking at things outside and then you're assessing, analyzing, and clarifying things outside. Now for the spiritual seeker, has to look within. That's the difference. The spiritual seeker now has to start looking within, and that's where it becomes a little bit more subtler. It's a bit subtler. To look within and start recognizing, who am I? Who am I? And that's essentially what this text is primarily focused on. This text is primarily keeping its focus on the question, who am I? That's what Drig-Drishya Vivek. So Drig-Drishya Vivek, seer and seen, otherwise experiencer, experienced. Clarity behind the experiencer and the experienced. Now you might sit there and say, Swamiji, I know who I am. Why are you saying, what type of question is this? Huh? Kya prashna? I know who I am. Driver's license, all the details are there. Yeah? And when you get to a certain age, you don't show the back of the driver's license. Why don't you show the back? Because on the back of the driver's license, they print your age, date of birth. Therefore, you only show the front. After a certain time, you never show the back because it says when you're born. And when you see when you're born, people around you, especially young people, if you hang out with them, ayo, they say, you're born in 19 something? 19! Whoa! So old. 1980s, old. 1970, please, let's not talk about that. 1960s, we don't even know what was happening. Maybe dinosaurs were roaming the earth at that time. For people born past 2000, 1960s and 70s and 50s, we don't know. Maybe Tyrannosaurus Rex ruled the land. Maybe Triceratops was there. No idea. And so, if we look at the driver's license and say, this is who I am. You know, there's a lot of confusion there. Now you think about women. Women will grow up. Most women will grow up and then have one name. Yeah? And become very identified with that name. And then if they get married and then they change their name. Now all of a sudden name is changed. Now change of name. Confusion, identities change. Now all of a sudden your earlier passport, your earlier driver's license, invalid. Invalid, because that's not who you are anymore. That's not who you are anymore. If you become a Swami, oh, that's also very confusing. More than two names, more than one name change, two name changes. You go from Purvashram name, birth name, then your Brahmachari name, and then Swami name. They're very confusing. Yeah. That's why my name is still Gautam on many of your phones. Isn't it? On many of your phones, the contact with Gautam only. Because a different name is there. So you see, even at an empirical level, it is not easy to figure out who we are. It's not easy to figure out who we are. Just from a simple thing of identification, it's tough. From name, it changes. Now, let's say you go to a reunion with your friends, high school friends reunion, 20 years, let's put 20 years. 20-year reunion, and all of a sudden you meet your high school friends. And when they meet you, they say, you know what? Whoa, this chap is so different to what he was. So different. He was so arrogant. He was so stuck up, thought he was the best. But life handed him failure after failure after failure. And yet now, very humble person. He's very interested in serving society. In high school, he only served himself. Wouldn't help anyone else. No colleagues, no friends. Now he's inviting the entire town to come and live in his house. Very hard to figure out, who has this person become? Who is he? He's not the person that we knew 20 years ago. He's changed. That person has changed, actually. So even over time, we will find that our personality changes. Our personality changes. Who we were when we were 15, who we were when 25, who we are 35, who we are 45, and who we're going to be 55, 65. It will change. I've met many elderly men which are very quiet, peaceful, wonderfully loving people to be around. And I asked them, what were you like when you were young? And they said, complete opposite. I was an angry person. I would fight with anyone. Fight with brother, fight with mother, fight with I fought with anyone. That was who I was. Now all of a sudden, shanti, shanti, shanti. You become wonderfully shanti. So no one can even recognize who this person is. Now some of you have become so spiritually inclined. That some of your friends from high school, hey, what has happened to this chap? He was the last person to attend any spiritual lecture. Last person. In fact, when you said Swami, he got opposite direction. If you said Bhagavad Gita, opposite direction. If you said anything with the word scripture, a rash. He broke out in a rash. And now, he Tuesday night, online, logging into a Swami, listening about Drig-Drishya Viveka. Ayyo, what happened to this chap? We change, we change. So to even understand who we are, it's very complex. It's not an easy question to answer. Yeah, because there are elements of us which are natural, and then there are elements of us which are foreign. There are parts of our personality which are natural to us, and you find these parts of your personality tend to be consistent. But there are also parts of your personality which are foreign, which means they have been taken from other sources. And they have not been fully assimilated. So sometimes there are views, sometimes there are beliefs, sometimes there are traditions which you are not entirely convinced of. You uphold them because others around you place pressure on you, or not even that. You have a desire to please those people, and therefore you uphold those beliefs and traditions. Not because you necessarily agree and subscribe to the actual tradition or the behavior or the belief, but you seek to please those people, and therefore you uphold it. They're actually foreign beliefs. They're not yours. The minute that person is out of the picture, relationship has broken down, or the person has passed away, you will find you will not maintain that belief or that tradition. You won't maintain it because you will not feel that it's natural. What you effortlessly maintain is that which is natural and a part of you. And therefore, even at, now we're going away from the physical entity. The physical entity, we said, name changes, form changes. At a personality level, mind level, there's also changes in people's personality. They go from Rajasic to Sattvic, loud and extrovert, become quiet. But even at an intellectual level, there is change and evolution. That as we grow and mature, we have to find out our own natural beliefs. When we're young, we take on a lot of beliefs from others. We are told, do this, do that, that is correct, that is incorrect. Some of these beliefs actually sink so deep into us, they become one with us. And then when it becomes one with you, it's now your belief. That's not a problem. It's gone from foreign to domestic. It's like when a migrant comes and gets citizenship. Naturalization, they called it, naturalization. Yeah. What does naturalization mean? Born in one place, foreign, but now has moved to this place and become one with it, has owned the citizenship and has identified with this land. Therefore, naturalization. Same way, some beliefs, they start with our parents, they start with our teachers, they start with our cultural traditions, and some of them actually become very natural to us. We're very happy to accept them. There's no problem with that. But there are some which come but never become citizens. They always stay on tourist visa. Yeah, they come, they visit, and then they want to leave. Under pressure, whenever there's pressure and there's not enough toilet paper in the country, they leave the country. That's what happens. Yeah, so the tourist has to leave. Whenever there's a lockdown, the tourist then says it's time to go. These foreign thoughts, these foreign beliefs, under pressure, you will find that you will not uphold them. You will not maintain them. Yeah, you will let them slip. You will not give them priority. You will not give them importance, because you don't feel that they're actually, in a subtle level, you don't feel they're actually a part of you. Under pressure, that which we maintain, sustain effortlessly is that which we have identified with wholeheartedly. That which we consider as me. That which we consider as me. That is effortlessly sustained even in the period of crisis. You will find that some people, for them, exercise is very important. And they have got a tremendously strong belief that exercise must be done daily. Healthy body, very important. And you will find that even at this time, in the time of crisis, when all the gyms are shut down, you will still find these people will find a method to exercise. They will go to the park, they will buy gym equipment, yeah? They will set up a gym in their house. And within 5 days of a crisis, they have already got everything up and running. A home gym and a home exercise program is running. How come they're so prompt and eager to get that going? Because that belief is actually part of them. That belief belongs to them. It is not a foreign belief, it's not a foreign thought. It belongs to them. And therefore, no one has to nag them. No one has to tell them. They will do it. And even when you're advised not to go outside and stay at home, still they will go outside for exercise because it is so much a part of their sense of self. Others who are going out because group activity. Everyone in the group asked me to come. Others were going out because my spouse is yelling at me that I'm putting on weight, tubby. Some extra tire is there. Yeah, you got so many spare tires that if the car breaks down, we have no problem. As long as you're here, plenty of spare tires. We can replace all 4 of those tires, even if it breaks down. So my spouse is on my back. Some because my kids, they jump on me and poke me. Yeah, and they poke me and they say, jelly, look at this. Look at all this jelly belly. There's a jelly belly over here. Now they use me as a trampoline. Yeah. And some because, my workplace, everyone is so well dressed, so fit, and I feel terrible. I can barely tuck my shirt into my pants. These are all foreign pressures that have come. Whether it's work pressure to look good, whether it's spouse pressure, whether it's family pressure, they're all foreign. And therefore, the minute there is any change in a situation, such as the current change, crisis level isolation, that person will feel very justified to say exercise is out. We've got other more important things to do right now than worry about exercise. Let us wash our hands. Let us continue to wash our hands. 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Well, there goes my exercise session. I was washing my hands. So I washed my hands of exercise. No exercise for me. Yeah. So given up. And when your spouse yells at you and says, why don't you go for a run? You say, isolation, what are you talking about? I'm following government regulations. I'm doing what the government has told. We said, don't go outside, therefore, can't do exercise. So you see, those beliefs that we readily drop, that we readily abandon, that we find very difficult to uphold, those beliefs are actually foreign. They're called anatma, not self. And those beliefs which you feel completely identified with, and in the midst of crisis, you will still find a way to uphold it. You'll become creative, you become innovative, and you will find a way to follow that belief, execute that belief, maintain that belief. Those beliefs are one with you, they're Atma. So Atma, Anatma. Now, all I'm doing here is taking you on a journey of showing you how the question of who am I is not easy to answer. At the level of the body, physical level. So at the level of the body, at the physical level, there can be change in name, can be change in form. At the level of the mind, there can be change in personality. Warm, cold, introvert, extrovert. And at the change of intellect, there can be a change in your attitude, beliefs, vision. So even at this level, BMI, which is where I'm currently living, I live at the level of BMI now. Even at this level, to figure out who I am, complicated. Very complicated, not easy. Now, this text is going to go far beyond that. This text is not going to say we're going to figure out BMI. We are going to go beyond BMI. Because here it is going to look at something subtler. It is going to say currently we are a mixture. We're a mixture of two things. And the mixture of two things is a mixture of sentient and insentient. Sentient, conscious, self-aware. It's called sentient. Chetana, chaitanyam, conscious. Insentient, inert. Jada. Jada. In Sanskrit, Jada. So currently we are a mixture of Jada, Chetana. Jada, inert matter. Chetana, consciousness, sentient. We're a mixture of these two things. Just like I said earlier, with regards to BMI, we are a mixture of foreign and domestic. Yeah, with regards to BMI, we are a mixture of foreign and domestic. With regards to who I really am, now go beyond BMI, then the real question is, are you Jada or are you Chetana? Am I a conscious, sentient being, or am I a mass of matter? Now, a person might say, I am a combination of these two. Why do you have to separate these two? Why do you have to separate these? Because I'm actually a combination of the two. The reason why we separate these two is actually they cannot coexist. They actually cannot coexist as a mixture. The two don't actually mix. They actually appear to be, but they're not. When you pour water and oil, so you have a cup or a bowl of water, and then you pour oil on top of it. It looks as if both of them are sitting in the same vessel. They appear to be in the same vessel, but they never mix. They never mix. The two actually cannot mix because Oil is hydrophobic. Hydrophobic means repelled by water. So these two, Jada, Chetana, also are like water and oil. They have very different properties. Very different properties. Jada means inert, means matter. Jada is that which is born, and Jada is that which transforms, and Jada modifies, and Jada dies. So inert is born, modifies, and perishes. Born, modifies, perishes. Antavanta ime deha. Sharirasya dehinaha. Antavanta has a begin and an end. So that's the nature of Jada. Chetana consciousness, Shastra says it is completely different. It has no birth and no death. Najayate mriyate vakadachin. There's no jayate, no birth, and therefore no mriyate, no death. Now let's just look at it from this standpoint. Just from the standpoint of one element having birth and death, the other element having no birth and death. So matter, birth and death. Consciousness, no birth and death. Now, when I try to mix these two together, I get completely confused. What's the confusion I have? Which one of these is me? Am I the Jada or am I the Chetana? Which one of them is me? Am I the inert matter, which has a name, which has a form, which is connected to people, which has a family, which has an income, which has duties, which has a personality? Or am I consciousness? And that consciousness is asangaha, completely detached. It is nitya muktaha, ever free. Nalipyate, it has no stain or taint. Uncontaminated, shuddham. It is shuddham. So am I that consciousness which has no birth, no death, and is completely free of taint? Or am I matter, which has got birth, death, and undergoes tremendous amount of modification? If I take myself to be matter, then I would define myself as I am perishable. I am perishable, which means what? I will die. At some point in time, I will die. Death can afflict me. Death can affect me. Death can consume me. And because of this thought that death can afflict and consume me, one very powerful emotion rises. And that is the emotion of fear. Bhayam. That as long as a person defines themselves as matter, which is perishable, then they will, there's no option. You will have to live with fear. You don't have an option. Because as long as the thought, I am matter, is there, then the thought, I will perish, will be there. And whenever that thought, I will perish, is there, the emotion of fear arises. Now you can see this is a time when we can see it so clearly. There is a pandemic, there is a virus, there is an increase in death toll, and it's leading to a lot of panic behavior. We've seen it in supermarkets and shops, that people have now all of a sudden reverted to this high level of fear we call panic. And normal people, which would have normal, healthy conduct, are now changing their behavior because all of a sudden fear has manifested. The fear that was dormant within us, the fear that was latent within us, has now been brought out into full manifestation. How did that happen? It's primarily because there is now a situation and scenario where matter can perish. There is a situation and scenario that matter can perish. This virus might actually, it has the capacity to cause death to matter. So when I am identified with matter, then all of a sudden I will start feeling, I could perish. I could die. Yeah. And because of that, fear will be induced. Fear is induced. That's because I have chosen to define myself as matter. Now let me change it. Let's go to the other one. The other one is I am consciousness. Now I define myself as consciousness. What is the nature of consciousness? Na jayate, na mriyate. That which is not born, and therefore that which does not die. So consciousness is that which doesn't die. But wait a minute, does it die when the body dies? No. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. That even when the body dies, hanyamane sharire, when the body is being killed and persecuted, nahanyate, there is no death to this consciousness. Consciousness doesn't die. It doesn't matter what you throw. To throw a virus at it, you can throw weapons at it, you can throw the elements at it, you can burn it, you can dry it, you can cleave it, you can suffocate it. Consciousness does not die under any situation or circumstance. There is no circumstance in which consciousness can die. In fact, Shankaracharya goes so far to say, in his Bhagavad Gita commentary, he goes so far to say that even God himself cannot kill consciousness. Ishvara himself cannot kill consciousness. That is the nature of this consciousness. So this consciousness, which is indestructible, this consciousness, if I define myself as this consciousness, what happens? What's the result? All of a sudden, the thought that I can perish is gone. I am not perishable. I am imperishable. I am avinashi. Avinashi. I cannot perish. I am also avikari. I have no modification or transformation. You can't stain me, you can't contaminate me, you can't deform me. I cannot be deformed, tainted, or stained by the world of experiences that I go through. So I can go through many, I can lose my job. When I lose my job, it doesn't mean I have become any lesser. I have not become any lower. I have not become stained or tainted. I can even lose my health. And even when my health is lost, still I am not tainted, stained, and there is no loss. I can lose friendships and relationships, and people can be very upset with me. And even when these relationships break, these friendships dissolve, even then, I am not stained, contaminated, nor do I suffer any loss. If I am confident that in all situations, I can suffer no actual loss, if I'm clear about that knowledge, there is no way I can lose. There is no way I have anything to lose. When I am immersed or merged with that knowledge, then all of a sudden you become completely fearless. Completely fearless. Yadevaishasya etasmin adrishye anatme anirukte anilayane abhayam pratishtam vindate ataso abhayam gato bhavati. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, it says, one who is identified with that consciousness, which is adrishya, cannot be seen. It is not the thing to be seen because it's a seer. It is anatmye, not the body. Anirukte, cannot be explained or conceived of. Anilayane, it is not an abode of anything. Yeah. When one becomes identified with that pure consciousness, then what happens? Abhayam pratishtam vindate. A person becomes completely fearless. And this is one of the definitions of moksha or liberation. Absolute fearlessness is a definition of moksha. So what is the benefit of studying Drig-Drishya Vivek? Because if I can separate and clearly understand myself as Chaitana, consciousness, which is imperishable, which has no birth, no death, as opposed to Jada, matter, which is born, is deformed, and then dies. If I become rooted in that knowledge, then I get the experience of complete freedom, liberation, and fearlessness. And this experience of freedom and this experience of fearlessness doesn't have to take place after you are dead. It will take place while you are living. It all depends on how firmly rooted in that conviction you are. How clear about that knowledge and how firmly rooted in that knowledge you become. And depending upon your nishta, abidance, adherence to this knowledge, to that extent, you get this experience. And as we reflect and as we study and as we probe deeper, we do the shravanam, it will push us into mananam. And that mananam will push us into nididhyasanam. And as we get into that nididhyasanam, we get consistency. We get abidance in this knowledge. So nididhyasanam, meditation upon this knowledge, gives you abidance in the knowledge. And what is the reward of that? The reward of that is fearlessness and freedom while you are living. It is freedom in the midst of all activity, duties. It is freedom in the midst of responsibility. It is fearlessness in the midst of insecurity and anxiety. That even while these things are going on, you are rooted in a very different experience of life altogether. Others are experiencing fear. Others are experiencing anxiety. Others are feeling burdened by life. But your experience of life is completely the opposite. Completely the opposite. This is called Jivan Muktihi, liberation while living. And this knowledge of Drig-Drishya, Viveka will give this as a result. It can give you Jivan Mukti. So we have briefly looked at what is the nature of this text is going to talk about clarity between seer and seen, experiencer and experienced. We have seen the benefit of why we want to explore this. What is the result or the phala? And understanding these things, then who is best suited for this knowledge? Adhikari. Then that person who has got interest in looking within. That person who wants to know about who am I. That person who wants to overcome fears. That person who wants more clarity in life about their goals, their pursuits, and more important, who am I? So that person who has got that type of interest, jignasa, desire to know. That person who has got this desire to know is called jignasu. And this jignasu becomes the adhikari for this text. Some people got no interest in knowing who they are, so they may not appreciate this text. And of course, the other spectrum is the realized master who already knows who he is and he's abiding in it. For him also, he need not study Drig-Drishya Viveka. For that person in the middle, jignasu, the one who wants to know who am I because he wants that fuller experience of life, that person really is the fit student for this text. So anyone who's interested in this text is going to benefit. And just from a Shastric point of view, we said that this text is largely going to explore the question of who am I. From a Shastric point of view, this is called Tvam Pada Vichara. Tvam Pada Vichara. Tvam means you, Pada means word, Vichara means inquiry. Inquiry into the word you. Now, where did this come from? This comes from the famous statement, Mahavakya called Tat Tvam Asi. Tat Tvam Asi is a famous statement, one of the most famous statements given in the Chandogya Upanishad, chapter 6. And it is called Upadesh Vakya because it is the Guru is telling the student, Tat Tvam Asi, you are that. You are that. So in this statement, Shankaracharya has done tremendous amount of work in clarifying these three words, because these three words are the difference between bondage and liberation. So he's done tremendous work on clarifying what does you mean, what does that mean, and what does are mean, because you are that. So what does the word you mean? What does the word that mean? And what does the word are mean? You are that. Doesn't mean you're similar to that. Doesn't mean you're exactly like that. He clarifies these things. This text is primarily focusing on the first word, Tvam. Tvam Pada Vichara. So it's a beautiful text to go deeper into the concept of what is Tvam. Other texts take up the word Tat. What is the nature of Tat? Tat is God. So who is God? What is the nature of this higher? So that's called Tat Pada Vichar. So some texts take up Tat Pada Vichar. This text is primarily focusing on Tvampada vichar, but there will obviously be elements of Tatpada and Asipada, so that Tattvamasi can be complete. So the student can gain full knowledge. Otherwise, they will not get full knowledge of the Upanishad. Yeah, so that's a little bit of a technical point. And I think with that, this is our introduction into Drig-Drishya Viveka. So who is it meant for? Adhikari. What is the nature of this topic? Tvampada vichara. And what is the prayojanam or result? Jivan muktihi. Okay, so with that, next week, we will then look at the actual first verse. And from that, the topic flows very beautifully. Yeah, so that's there. Read through the verses that you have on the PDF. So you become a little bit familiar with chanting. The first verse is worth memorizing. It's a very famous verse, and it's worth memorizing. And also the fifth verse is worth memorizing. So throughout the week, if you have a chance, start practicing first and fifth verse. Okay, with that, we will conclude this session, and we'll continue on next week. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Om.